Remember all the talk about Maine's budget surpluses? Good times, right? Well, buckle up, because the question today is $11 billion Maine budget future deficit? Who will pay for Democrat spending? It's a stark contrast, and this new budget isn't just a concern, it's a trajectory that many believe is guaranteed to create a deficit. So, let's rewind together, connect the dots from surplus to the spending spree, and demand answers.
Maine ended the fiscal year with a budget surplus of nearly $168 million. That's according to the Department of Administrative and Financial Services. Excuse me, the department says it transferred $18.1 million to the state's Budget Stabilization Fund and $4.5 million to the Property Tax Relief Fund.
I'm just popping in real quick to remind you that liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing all really benefit this channel. And as a growing channel, it really means a lot to me. I read all the comments and I get back to all of them. So if you haven't already done so, please go ahead and like and subscribe. Make sure to hit the bell notification so that you know when a new video comes out. All right, let's get back to the video.
Earlier this month, the Nonpartisan Revenue Forecasting Committee put out this updated surplus projection. It found an additional $108 million in one-time revenues in the current biennium, fiscal years 2024 and 2025. That's largely driven by strong corporate tax revenues.
Targeted smart investments are the way that we continue to build our revenues up.
Each item we went through.
While the number could change, leaders are looking through ideas in a previous supplemental budget.
So we're just kind of in a holding pattern, looking at the items to try and see what we may or may not want to support.
Because the Constitution requires a balanced budget, Governor Janet Mills will have to submit a change package, which is expected in the coming days.
House Democrats are looking to sort of keep the same priorities that we've always had. So housing, healthcare, childcare, how we're supporting vulnerable Mainers.
We asked the governor's office what she will prioritize. They pointed to a statement from the Department of Administrative and Financial Services, which says the package, quote, will seek to invest prudently in immediate urgent needs while ensuring we remain on steady fiscal footing in the coming years.
It's hard to, form an opinion on something that you haven't seen yet.
The governor has already proposed saving $107 million for the next biennium, as revenues are expected to level off. Senator Jackson says they have to be cautious, but still invest.
I don't think you just lock this money all away and say, well, we're going to have a bad downturn sometime, and this is why we have to put this money away.
In Augusta, Mel Meyer, CBS 13 News.
So that gives you a sense of the journey in some of the things that we've been watching. Now, as we pivot back to today and stare at this $11 billion budget figure, I want to be perfectly clear. I don't have all the answers. I wish I did. What I do have is a growing concern. A concern that I genuinely believe every Mainer should share right now. It forces us to ask some pretty fundamental questions, doesn't it? Where is all this staggering amount of money actually going? Why is the budget so incredibly high, especially when we recall those recent surpluses? And the big one, the question that hangs over everything, who is ultimately going to pay for all of it? Before I offer my own analysis on that, I think it's crucial that we hear directly from both Democrats and Republicans about what they say this budget means for Maine. So let's watch the following clips together, listen to their perspectives, and then we'll break it down.
All right, state lawmakers worked into the early hours of this morning to send the next two-year budget to the governor's desk. The plan, approved with a Democratic majority, includes funding to cover the $118 million Maine care gap that is currently impacting payments to providers. News Center Maine's Donovan Lynch has the latest from Augusta.
Early this morning, the Maine legislature ended its session after passing a 2-year budget with a simple Democratic majority. The $11.3 billion spending plan is what Democrats call a continuing services budget, essentially a bill that keeps current programs running through the next 2 years, but doesn't have any new tax proposals. It also covers an urgent funding gap in the state's Medicaid program that was the meat of the smaller supplemental budget that failed in the Senate last week. Though Democrats spoke today of the importance of passing this funding plan to keep critical programs running, Republicans say they're being cut out of the budget because of the manner in which it was passed, foregoing the 2/3 majority needed to go into effect immediately.
We're now living within the 6th year in a row without a single Republican vote on Democrat spending sprees. And that's the unfortunate reality of what happens when one side holds all the marbles. They don't have to work with the minority party. That's precisely what's going on.
I don't think there's anything in this budget bill that anybody should disagree with. I think it's very basic. It does some really, really important things for Maine communities, things that really have to happen and really need to be done. So I was very glad that it passed.
The legislature adjourned early Friday morning for the simple fact that because this budget bill is not an emergency measure, it needs 90 days to take effect. And it needs to take effect before July 1st. That's when the new fiscal year starts. As for what comes next, well, the governor can call lawmakers back into another session to finish their unworked business. In Augusta, Donovan Lynch, News Center, Maine.
A budget funding the next 2 years of state government was passed by the Democratic majority in the Maine legislature and signed by Governor Mills. Conversations continue in Augusta about what the rest of the year looks like. Republicans voiced concerns yesterday about an expected second part of the biennial budget, where they say new taxes and positions will be introduced. They're also concerned about a lack of Maine care reform, specifically looking at the need to have more than 400,000 Mainers as beneficiaries of the program. Democrats say while passing a non-emergency budget wasn't ideal, it was necessary to close the current Maine care gap.
You saw, and you can look right now, what's happening with the delays in the Maine care payments. And the reason we really needed to rush this through was to at least get the clock started on those Maine care payments. 90 days is still too long to wait, and I still am hopeful that our colleagues will find a way to come together that we can get this emergency funding passed. But I wasn't willing to play chicken anymore.
We're on an unsustainable level. And until Democrats are going to come to us with some sort of proposal that is going to reduce that number and actually do something about it, I don't see a whole lot of support from our side of the aisle.
The legislature adjourned last week. It's now called back into special session to work on the second part of the budget and other bills before lawmakers.
So, as we wrap things up, I want to bring it all back to a crucial point. We've talked about this massive $11 billion state budget, and while it's presented as a budget today, I want to state my genuine belief and deep concern. I believe that in 3 years, we could very well be looking at the same $11 billion figure, not as a budget, but as a staggering deficit. Now let's consider what this would mean in real terms for the people of Maine based on the numbers we've discussed. This is a hypothetical scenario. Yes, because the state won't just send out a bill, but it's critical to understand the scale of the financial burden we're talking about if things do go wrong. Let's break down the statistics. Our state, Maine, has a total population of roughly 1.4 million people. Our dependents, within that, about 17.8% are minors, around 250,000 kids, and 23% are seniors aged 65 and over, around 323,000 individuals. That's over 40% of our population largely not in prime income earning workforce. Our workforce. This leaves us with approximately 683,100 Mainers currently employed who form the backbone of our tax base. Now, imagine that $11 billion budget does indeed become an $11 billion deficit that needs to be covered. If the weight of that hypothetical fell squarely on the shoulders of those 683,100 working Mainers, what would it look like? It would mean a one-time hit of approximately $16,103 per working Mainer. Or if you tried to spread that pain, it's still over $1,610 extra per year per worker for a decade. Even over 20 years, it's an additional $805 annually from every working person. And remember, that's on top of the already significant federal, state, and local taxes Mainers pay in one of the highest tax states in the nation, a state also grappling with high poverty rates. Now, as the information we looked at earlier points out, the government won't collect a deficit by sending out individual invoices for $16,000. They'll raise taxes in various forms, cut services, or go deeper into debt, which our children will inherit. But these raw numbers, this 16,000 hypothetical shock, are a stark way to illustrate the sheer magnitude of the financial commitments being made, supposedly on our behalf, compared to the actual size of our state's workforce. This isn't about scaremongering. It's about demanding a realistic look at the path we are on. This $11 billion budget isn't just a number in a ledger. It represents real obligations and future consequences. So, I urge you to think about these figures. Ask the hard questions. Demand transparency and fiscal responsibility from Augusta. Because the future of Maine, our choices are being made right now. Don't let this just be a budget today that becomes an unbearable deficit tomorrow. Stay informed, stay engaged, and make your voice heard. This has been Drew Hoagland with Mainstream Current. I'll see y'all again after a while.
Ready? Fight!